an award? Oh.
Ooh.
What's wrong here is everything. You know, guys, what's funny about this, and I know, especially with as many amplifiers as you deal with on a daily basis for your dyno videos, and you know, the installs that you do on your own stuff there, Robert, I've learned, and I'm almost ashamed to say that I really wasn't aware of ferrules until probably a year or so back. But this is a case where I am a ferrule convert. Once you learn what a wire ferrule is, which is just a thin piece of copper that's tin plated, it's a tube, and it's flared on one end so you can easily get all those strands of copper wire you're dealing with into the ferrule. And they make these ferrules in all different sizes. I mean, we've got a box from over here in the studio. We use it for all the setups we do here in the studio. But what's cool about a ferrule is once you put the ferrule on and you put it into the amp or the distribution block or wherever, and you tighten it down, you can undo that connection and pull it out, and the ferrule now stays part of the wire, and you can plug and unplug that thing many times using that same ferrule, and your wires do not get all frayed out and cause problems. And that's what you go on here is they tried to cram all those wires into that connector. It may have been too big a wire or too small a connector, either way, but you're not getting all the current into the amplifier, number one, and that's just a fire waiting to happen if they're part of Team No Fuse.
Right. That's blowing your amp instantly.
Yeah, anytime the connections on the amp are that close and they're open like that, you definitely want to use a ferrule. You don't want any of the wires to be extruding outside.
Are these not the...
No.
This looks like a Rockford Fosgate amp to me, and they have the pinch. They're just using too big of a wire. Because if they would have used 8 gauge...
Yep, it would have pushed in.
And you don't even need a ferrule because they have flat bars inside of there.
Right.
Owner says he does not know why the fuse keeps blowing.
Exactly, yeah. That's for sure.
That's a good one, SJC Audio. That's funny. That's a great comment about that. But yeah, guys, you don't do this. And honestly, if I could do anything and share any wisdom to you that I have come across in the last year or so, is ferrules are your friend. You can buy them at any store that deals in electrical supplies. If you're like me, you're just going to hit Amazon.com. You can buy whatever size you want. They sell kits. You can get a variety of sizes and have them in. They're not that expensive. I'm a convert. I use ferrules on absolutely everything, and this is a case where ferrules are your friend in a case like this. Can't recommend them enough.
And if you need bigger wire, do the Dereck trick and just run 1/0 to a distribution block, and then your 8 gauge out at 3 or 6 inches.
Very true. Jason chimes in here, heat shrink. Yeah, even with a ferrule, I like putting heat shrink on the end of the ferrule back onto the insulation of the wire because then that completely covers that end up. But you bring up an interesting thing there, Robert, and I want to address that for just a second, is that, you know, if you run a 1/0 wire all the way from your battery location to where you're going to distribute power to your amplifiers, you know, 8 gauge wire in a short length will carry a lot more current than it will over a 17 or 20 foot length. So you might have an amplifier that is plumbed for 4 gauge, but if you've got 1/0 running to the back and it's a solid connection, you can probably run that 2 to 3 foot distance out of your distribution block with 8 gauge, and that amp's going to perform just fine because you're not asking that 8 gauge to carry 100 amps over 17 feet. You're asking that 8 gauge to carry 100 amps over 2 to 3 feet, and all wire, doesn't matter what size or gauge, as you shrink the wire down in length, it will carry more current safely for its size. So that's a very good comment that you made, and I wanted to just point that out. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's the perfect way to upgrade in the future too. If if you want to upgrade, then you don't have to rerun your power wire either. So having the 1/0, and then you have the ability anytime to add more.